Cowboys have really 4 extension questions before them as they head into this offseason. Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb are now eligible for new deals. Terrence Steele is not technically an extension because he's out of contract, but he is a restricted free agent, and the Cowboys have pretty much all the control over him. They can get Terrence Steele back if they need him. And then the other question... That's
because they can just match? Is that right?
Yeah, they can match. It's really difficult for restricted free agents. Exclusive rights free agents, there's nothing you can do. Restricted free agents, there's a little bit of mobility, but really, if they have any interest in keeping you, you can't come back.
If they decide they don't want to match, do they get a pick back?
Yes, they would.
All right.
They tender him basically. So here's the way it works. They can tender him as a first round tender, which means they all have fixed salaries. So a first round tender means you're due a certain amount of money. And if you get signed by somebody else, then the Cowboys either have the opportunity to match it or just take the pick that they're being offered. It's a little like a smaller scale franchise tag.
Gotcha.
So you put a tender on them, and then depending on if you want the compensation or not, but if the Cowboys want to keep him, they'll work out an extension. They may not even need to tender him, and then it'll be over. And then the other one that they have to ask about or that they'll have to look at, and I know I can already hear several people listening to us rolling their eyes and getting frustrated because we know Dak Prescott has his fair share of critics around here. But the other one is Dak Prescott. That if they were to give Dak Prescott an extension, that is the way you could free up the most possible money on his deal.
Well, yeah, and listen, you should probably give your quarterback an extension every year, a 3-year extension.
Maybe I don't know about every year, but maybe every 2.
Yeah, and then
because get the benefit of having it cheaper for at least into the second year. If you're doing it every year, you're probably being near the top of the market the whole time. But yeah, get ahead of it.
Right.
Make sure you've got it locked in.
So, now that's the question: is do they plan to keep him for? You got to plan to keep the guy. If you're going to give him an extension, you got to plan to keep him for another 6, 7 years, 5 years.
Right.
And I assume they do, but
Stephen Jones told us. Told the media when he was out there in Mobile, said that was one of the things they were looking at was an extension for Dak. Here are the ways you can break this up, Chop. You can cut Dak Prescott before June 1st. You go $39 million in the red, almost 40. That's not feasible. That's not an option. You can cut Dak post June 1st. It's literally zero savings. It's $49 million dead money and nothing saved. So that one doesn't make a lot of sense either. You're carrying a huge cap charge over the next 2 years, and then you'd have to pay somebody else to be your quarterback. Those both don't make sense. You trade him before June 1st, you're talking about $9 million in the red. Again, it costs you money to get rid of him instead of saving you anything. Not a feasible one. The only thing where you can get rid of Dak, if that's what you're into, and save money is you trade him post June 1st. You save $31 million. There is nobody that's going to wait for their quarterback to get in the building until June.
No, unless you have to.
Unless it's a Deshaun Watson where he's not going to play for 10 weeks or something. But with Dak, no, you're not going to drop him in June and just go, hey, learn the offense here just through training camp, and then go out there and anybody who's making an investment in Dak wants somebody who can play now and play well. So that one's not feasible. So the only 2 options, Shop, are the restructure that frees up $22.3 million. That's the most you can possibly free up. If you do an extension, you can free up almost $24 million. Without kicking the can down the road the way a restructure would. I think that's why when they look at it, if they were to, their options here with Dak's contract are stand pat. You can do that if you like. He's got he's got 2 years left on this deal. There's 4, but it's 2 void years. So he's got 2 years left on his deal. So you either don't touch it, don't get any cap savings, but put yourself in position if you want to move on from him in the future, you can do that. You restructure him and push more money down the road to free up the cash, or you give him an extension and that gives you the most possible money and lessens the burden of how you're spreading the money out into the future. So with that said, it sounds when you lay those things out like the most likely option the Cowboys are going to engage in is they're probably going to work on an extension this offseason.
And you're okay with that?
I'm okay with it. Are you okay with it?
I suppose, yeah.
I mean, you got to free up money somehow. So would you rather restructure it and just maybe have to take a bath a little bit later, or get the same amount of money?
What kind of money are you talking?
Like, how much money can you free up?
No, on the extension, like per year.
See, that would be the question. There's a limit on how much you can actually sign with the extension, like in terms of how much money you can free up by doing it. Right now, the biggest salaries are Aaron Rodgers at $50 million per year, Russell Wilson $48, Kyler $46, Dak is sitting at $40. I would bet an extension puts him around Kyler,
which is
46.
Ooh,
6 more annually.
I mean, look, if you're going to sync with them, go with it.
It lessens the cap figure. It does, even though
how it does that.
Yeah, even though it's more money, it will lessen the cap figure over the life of the contract.
Then do it, I guess.
So in essence, it would just be, while it would be less of a yearly drain on you, it would make it harder to get out of it if you wanted to get out next year. So for fans who want to get out of it, I'm sure they don't want anything to do with this.
Right, and listen, like the other thing is, with each year the cap goes up, the burden is less and less. Like,
went up by $16 million this year.
All right. I mean, go ahead. If it's going to lower his cap number and it's going to free up money, and you're going to keep him around longer, then go ahead and do it. If you've bought into him, you're either going to sink or swim with him.
Mm-hmm.
So like get it out of your head that they're going to move on from him, because Jerry's not, at his age, he's not rebuilding.
So when Dak signed his deal, it was $40 million annually in 2021, and the cap was 182.5. So if he were to sign today, and his value were to go to that was 22% of the cap at the time, Chop. So if he were to sign and his average annual value went to $46 million, which is a pay increase, he would then represent 20.5% of the cap. So his percentage of the cap figure goes down from where he signed it initially, if he were to sign around there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so it gives you some flexibility. It just marries you in long term. Do you want the flexibility? Do you want the savings? In exchange for it locks you in longer with him for certain. Or would you rather be in a tougher financial position for 2 to 3 years to be able to get out of it earlier if you wanted?
Truckwreck.com text line. You don't care about money in this situation. You have to save money if you get rid of Dak. You're purposely rebuilding if you ditch him. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying. If you get rid of him, you're purposely trying to be bad.
Yes.
Quarterback money doesn't matter if they're that good. And like Patrick Mahomes' money doesn't matter. Because he's that good. Another one from the 906. Number 4 was already the oldest quarterback in the final 8. Is he going to get better? Extending him extends the futility. Is he really? Was he really the oldest quarterback in the final 8?
He was, but it was a very young group.
I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, most of the guys were under 27.
But that's just the natural changeover of the league, right? 5 years from now, it's going to be older quarterbacks because it'll be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. They'll still be good players and they'll still be in it. This is just, we've hit this changing of the guard where Brady retires, Rodgers is getting, up there. You're starting to get these guys who are, consistently contributing. Russell Wilson, they're just starting to be on the back end. And so that's what you're running into now. When you look at the other contracts that they're at, that's the biggest question, obviously. I think if they try to work out an extension with Dak this offseason. When you look at the other questions, Terrence Steele is...
And by the way, real quick.
Yeah.
The notion, and this team has done this, right? They always restructure to maintain a competitive team, to get more guys. Why do they never... And I probably know the answer to this because it's Jerry, but they never just say, okay, you know what? We're just going to take a cap year. We're going to ditch a lot of our bad deals and we'll deal with the consequences and we'll try again later.
Because Jerry, I don't think feels like he has time to do that.
Because that's the smart thing to really do.
Yep.
Long term. Just say, okay, look, we're just not going to compete. It's not going to be a competitive. The Packers did this. The Packers do this all the time. Belichick has done this before. Now they had Brady, so it didn't matter. That's the thing. If you have an elite quarterback, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that would be their line of thinking on it, though. Is that Jerry not wanting to take a year off?
Jerry would never.
He refused to take the COVID year off. He fought for them to play football because he did not want to miss another opportunity.
Jerry would never have done what the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill.
No chance.
never have done that. And that was clearly the smart thing to do.